that's it then. Meghan Markle has sensationally shut up shop. After all the noise, all the pathetic plugging, all the please, please, please buy my wares desperation for Her Montecito Majesty's lamentable lifestyle site, as ever, there will be no happy ever after. Following virtually no sales at all, the dysfunctional Duchess has pretty much closed down her ailing business. Our hopeless heroine revealing in an extraordinary declaration that she's stepping back to figure out exactly what as ever could be. Isn't that the sort of thing she should have figured out before the launch? Nothing new is planned and there will be no items on sale, if at all, until at least early 2026, as in next year. Think about it. This is an astonishing admission that, as ever, the sad, simpering successor to her disastrous non-starter American Riviera orchard has failed. A 24-carat catastrophe that, as a major moneymaker, was right up there with selling sand in the Sahara. Who knew that $14 for a jar of non-jam fruit spread, $28 for honey and 12 greenbacks for a packet of tea wouldn't be a smash hit with millions of consumers who can buy superior, far cheaper products at their local corner store? Yeah, who knew? Well, since you ask, everyone except the dim Duchess, whose fractured relationship with the real world grows ever more distant by the day. Her food having flopped, Meghan now says she might start flogging clothes. In an interview to promote the final dreary episode of her epically dull podcast series Confessions of a Female Founder, the self-styled Queen of California said that if she had to write a resume, she wouldn't know what to call herself. I can think of a few things, but let's keep it clean. How about accomplished social mountaineer who climbed the wrong ladder, or skillful royal hanger-on, or internationally renowned greatest mother who ever lived? How about you? What should Mrs. Sussex put on her CV? Answers on a postcard, please. Here she is again, spewing her strange, semi-English gobbledygook. I think it speaks to this chapter many of us find ourselves in, where none of us are one note. But I believe all the notes I am playing are part of the same song. What the hell does that even mean? Does she know? Because damned if I do. Do you? Answers on a postcard, please. Meanwhile, we're told that there might be a third series of Netflix's unwatchable With Love, Meghan. That would be after the second series that's coming to the screen by unpopular demand in September. Frankly, I'll believe this unlikely recommission when I see it. But poor Meg better hope it's true, because as her toweringly tedious Confessions of a Female Founder grinds to a halt amid global apathy, the wannabe billionaire tycoon hasn't got a whole lot else going on. Credit to the ambitious Miss Markle for her undoubted tenaciousness. In her manic pursuit of soaraway success, she has tried and tried and tried. Sadly, she has failed and failed and failed. With whatever harebrained scheme she has a go at next, we wish her the very best of luck. God knows she's going to need it. But what of that carrot top guy she's married to? What's his name again? That's it, Prince Harry. What on earth is he up to these days? Does anyone care? Not really, but he thinks he's important, so here's your vital update. Just as his estranged father Charles was in Canada on a triumphant state visit, old Gingernuts headed east for his first ever trip to China, yet again enraging the British royals with another blatant attempt to upstage the king by grabbing a few headlines. The dreaded Duke didn't really succeed in that mission because all he was doing was making a pompous climate change speech on behalf of Travelist, the eco-travel company he allegedly co-founded. Hapless Harry's puffed-up oratory was the usual life-sapping cocktail of clapped-out cliches and boring buzzwords of no interest to sentient adults whatsoever. That's it. But since the caring, sharing prince is so passionate about saving the planet through the prism of environmentally friendly travel, how did he actually get to Shanghai? First class on an Earth-destroying passenger plane? A private jet? Or an oh-so-green sailing boat? If it wasn't the yacht, and let's face it, that's fairly improbable, then we have to ask the question, is Harry an industrial-scale hypocrite? You might think so. I couldn't possibly comment.
Their latest Let's Have Our Privacy exhibit, Exhibit A, would appear to be a rather interesting video, which I'm going to show you now. This is Harry and Meghan dancing in a maternity ward in a hospital. I'm not quite sure which baby this is supposed to be.
Baby mama, this shot's been pregnant for way too long. I tell the DJ turn it off.
If she a baby mama, she gon' do that baby mama.
Work.
She gon' put it on you. She gon' do that baby mama. Drop
Drop it down, down low.
drop
Drop it down, down low. Drop it down low. Do the baby mama when I step out on the top. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, oh. Hit the baby mama when I'm stepping through the door. Yeah, I'm pregnant, but I got an ill flow. Tryna make some money, buy some huggies from the store. S to the T A, double R K, to the E I, S H A, and I don't play. Doing my way, prego, but I'm still doing moves like Beyonce. Yeah, I said I'm
Meghan's
pregnant.
twerking. Prince Harry's kind of dad dancing, not quite sure what he's doing, but the Sussexes invade their own privacy again, says the Sun. Very strange piece of video. Let's have a look at Rupert Bell and what he wants to say about it. Rupert, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
This is even for them, this is a very bizarre video, isn't it?
It's weird, basically. It's to celebrate Lilibet's 4th birthday, because that was supposedly recorded while she was in labour, waiting for the birth of Lilibet.
Okay, so this is 4 years old then?
4 years old, because Lilibet has turned 4. But it just seems to me the weirdest thing to put out. I mean, if they're looking at that and think this is clever,
yeah.
I mean, are they stupid or what?
Well, I think they
just think, because it just looks like it's in such poor taste, and yet she thinks that she's a princess and has the right almost to be HRH, although officially not, shouldn't use the title, but has been quietly using it in places. I mean, it's downright awful and weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, look, we probably all got stories of when our children were born that the mothers would probably try and do something. In my case, my wife decided she needed a spicy Indian, and that seemed to work, and out popped Miles. So, there are many ways that people try to encourage. But the last thing I do is be filming my wife eating the Indian. And, it just weird to do this. And if they think they want to have, I don't know what they're trying to prove by this. And then they put out pictures of Lilibet, but it doesn't, you see her half covered,
right.
But what all you see is Meghan. So it's all about Meghan again.
It always is all about Meghan.
Well, this is the problem. And this is why I think people get exasperated. And as you mentioned, where's this beloved privacy that they talk about?
Yeah.
That they don't want attention. This is just so attention-seeking.
It is.
It is mind-numbing that they could even think like. But maybe, I don't know what they're trying to prove or what mindset they're in at the moment, but it seems to be a pretty strange one to most normal thinking.
I mean, I'm assuming she and he think this is showing that they're down with the kids, despite the fact that they're massive celebrities and they're incredibly important people. But look at this, just messing about, listening to a rap song by Little Missy or somebody, I don't know who it's by. But there's something a bit odd about the look of her as well. And Isabel Oakeshott said this, there's something really odd about Meghan's bump. Baby bumps are round and extremely smooth, not all bulky and baggy like that. She says, very curious. It is a bit curious, isn't it? I mean, I know different women have different shaped bumps and they can, sometimes be wider or thinner or higher or lower, but it just looks a bit strange, doesn't it?
I'm not really in a position to comment because having not been pregnant, I don't really know. But what she did say recently in a podcast of her, that she put on 65 pounds in each of her pregnancies.
Right.
Well,
that's
which
quite
is
a lot,
about well, that is a substantial amount of weight, but that doesn't, so, clearly she put weight on, but whether that's 65 pounds, I know not. But it's all part of this does look a bit of a freak show. That's what sort of voyeurism gone wrong, basically, from the thinking that people are going to look at this and go, wow. And Harry just looks sort of slightly strange in the background. Anyway,
he's probably stoned, isn't he?
Well, a whole thing just they keep on doing things that you just go, have you not read the room?
Yeah.
That seems to be the problem. And you don't want to just always be having a pop at them and saying, why now? Why now? But they do just seem to put their foot in their mouth on regular moments. And, at the moment we're seeing a bit of Archie and Lilibet, but we never see them. Whereas if you look at the Waleses, when they put out a birthday photograph, they tend to put out a birthday photograph of Charlotte, George or Louis and say, that's it, and make it about them. But instead, what we have is Meghan making it about her. This is all about her.
Right.
It's not about Lilibet. And this is where you just get, you start wanting to pull your hair out.
I know.
In frustration.
It is very weird because everything that they're now doing seems to be, misfiring. We found out just the other day that it looks like about 700,000 quid is the damage done to the Exchequer for Harry's attempts at trying to get his royal security case fought through. It may well be that he ends up picking up the tab, but at the moment it's the taxpayer that's footing the bill for the defence of that particular story by the Home Office, and meanwhile her podcast goes from bad to worse. She now has decided to disband her jam empire. Nobody's quite sure why. She might start to have again, she might not. She's worried that people might be annoyed because they can't buy the stuff. I mean, it's all just weird.
It's incompetent, basically, because if you're going to launch a business, and her podcast was interviewing people who had run successful businesses. Well, the work some of them put into it, it was real hard graft. It just proves to me that she expects things to just, with a flick of a finger, she will produce a highly successful business. And then she talks about all the heartaches and sleepless nights. You just don't feel that it resonates. And this is just another sort of part of the weird world of Meghan and Harry, and that we are trying to understand and comprehend. I mean, she seems to readily accept awards left, right and centre. I think she's even supposedly going to be accepting another award next week.
Oh, yeah.
On the day of the King's birthday parade for her work in philanthropy, I believe. So there's all sorts of... being philanthropic. I can't say it anymore,
Where?
Mike.
Well, what philanthropy has she been doing?
Well, therein lies one of the problems, but it's an award ceremony in Los Angeles. But it may be, so they do seem to love an award to add for their credibility. So the whole thing, if you're going to put out something to celebrate your daughter's birthday, please don't put something out as tacky as that. And I'm afraid there's no other words. It's just downright tacky. Maybe wrong. Maybe some people do like it, but to me, maybe I'm not the generation it's supposed to appeal to. But I think most right-thinking people just think it's the most appallingly bad taste and not befitting of the status of someone who thinks that she should have been an integral member of the royal family.
No, exactly right. Imagine if they still were. That would be an absolute nightmare.
Meghan Markle twerking with her baby bump with Prince Harry 4 years ago, just before the birth of Lilibet. Now, my question there is, you can watch this, she's posted this on Instagram today. So this is 4 years ago in the privacy of their private hospital there. And it's Harry and Meghan there twerking away. Look at them. Great dancing, Harry. What a guy. Now, my question to the audience, though, is we'll revisit this a little later because I want to talk about Harry's sky-high legal bills and exactly how much this entitled little man's stubborn vanity is going to cost the taxpayer of this country, because we just found out how much his lawyers' bills have been over the past few years while he's battled to get armed police protection in this country. But that notwithstanding, what I want to ask the audience here, much more important question. Meghan there, is that a real baby bump or has she strapped it on?
It looks really weird.
She's got form for strapping on baby bumps. So what do you think as you see it? I think
there's something very wrong with that shape, in my view. I don't know. Look, I'm mesmerised, but I'm kind of. Do you know what I'm thinking? I'm glad the Queen is no longer with us, because oh my Lord, how she would be shuddering at those images. It's so undignified. I don't know. Call me old-fashioned, but I'm finding that quite uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable. But I don't think, because she's done this before for photos, I don't think that is a real baby bump. I think
way too big. It's way too big.
And sort of too low as well.
Yeah, it's like a metre out there. I mean, it looks the wrong shape.
I mean, where's she going to give birth there? Through her knees or something? I mean, that is too low. Anyway, so everybody, let me know, is that a real baby bump? Because I don't think it is, and I think Isabel agrees with me. So on that incredibly important issue, let's move on. This is difficult for me. Meghan and Harry, I find this, I feel like there's going to be a little bit of sick in my mouth as I try and describe this, because fresh from repeatedly telling us that they were escaping the United Kingdom because they wanted privacy, they hated the press, they hated everything to be involved in the intrusion in their lives, and then they had their little children and the feral children, and they left them with the chickens, and all she does now with her jams that are crap is post pictures of her children left, right and centre, which has me always thinking, well, hold on a second, you duplicitous woman, how does that make any sense? But we've now reached a point where I possibly am going to be sick live on the television. Meghan Markle has posted a cringy video of her and Prince Harry dancing in a hospital room. This is we're playing it. She's waiting for she's twerking with the baby to try and make the baby come. This is to induce Elizabeth's birth. She's dancing in front of the camera. Oh God, it looks like a lap dancing club with pregnant women. He's also dancing in front of the camera. She's got a black dress on. She's literally holding her bump and twerking, and she's put this on social media. The woman is that's getting worse now. She looks like she's performing.
Well, and look, JK, the lyrics are prego, but I'm still doing moves like Beyonce. Yeah, I said I'm pregnant. Get the child support and pay my rent. Your opinion is irrelevant because I'm a baby mama. I can do what I wanna. That is the song she's dancing to about getting that child support.
Sorry, you got it. I'm sorry. The greatest moment in British. Just do that. Just do that again. Jodie is on the floor, which isn't been the first time. Just do again what you just said. This is what she's dancing to.
Prego, but I'm still doing moves like Beyonce. Yeah, I said I'm pregnant. Get that child support and pay my rent. Your opinion is irrelevant because I'm a baby mama and I can do what I wanna.
My God. Is it me? Is it me, or is there nothing this woman... Is she ever going to get to the point where she literally looks in the mirror and goes, nobody's interested in my jam or my life, nobody likes me, shut the hell up?
I mean, this is oversharing, oversharing, oversharing. She had the chance to be seen as elegant, elusive, and powerful, the kind of woman people lean into here.
Yeah.
But instead, we've heard everything. Every grievance, every private conversation, every subtle slight turned into a headline, from Oprah to Spotify to Netflix, you know, to staged whispers in People magazine. It's been non-stop. The worldwide privacy tour on South Park, it's come to life. That's what we're witnessing in this hospital room right here.
I mean, that's the point. It was all about privacy. It was all about how they were in this goldfish bowl and how the British press, but in fact the world's press, were out for nothing other than to destroy them and to make them feel like allegedly Diana felt in the end. All of this, that was what the escape was about. And I've said it so many times it bores me. I got it at that point. You know, when they got on that plane, I got it. But the minute you sign a $100 million deal with Spotify and now you're posting yourself twerking, this is getting worse, this video. She's getting lower by the minute. He's now playing with his groin. I think there is now sick, essentially in my mouth. There is a little bit of sick just at the back. Oh my God, this is horrific. Go online and watch this. Duchess...
Don't do it. Why are you telling people to do, not unless you're a masochist? I mean, you're right. What made Princess Diana so unforgettable wasn't just her vulnerability. It was the restraint.
Yeah.
I mean, she chose moments. Meghan shares like she's live tweeting a breakup in real time. There's no pacing, no sense of occasion.
No.
And when you constantly overshare, people stop listening. You dull your own impact. Oversharing doesn't build trust. It erodes credibility, and it makes people question what's real, what's curated like this, and why there's always another bombshell around the corner. And what's worse, it makes her predictable. You know she's going to say something or do something dramatic. You just don't know which platform she's going to monetize it on. Mystery is power. Look at the royal family. And Meghan gave all of hers away, one interview at a time.
It's really interesting what you say, and I'll tell you why I agree. You know what my old man did. He worked for the Queen Mother for 41 years. And he said, and I've never forgotten this, that the mystique of the royal family died with the Queen Mother, and that all of the royal family, to a degree, were responsible for using the media and using social media to achieve whatever they were trying to achieve. And he included Diana, and he included Prince Charles, and he included Sarah Ferguson, and all of them in that. In the old days, we didn't know. Of course, the British monarchy had to modernise, and I get that. But there's one word that keeps coming back to me about these two. It's about privacy. They've been to court. They've spent millions of, well, probably taxpayers' money talking about privacy. And now we've got a video of her twerking in a black dress with a lump. I mean, I'm not just don't watch it, but it's revolting. Her ass is it's everywhere. But what I'm trying to say is, how does anybody take that seriously? And if you step back as I do, like a royalist, that's a princess. That's not a princess.
Oh,
that's not a duchess.
I mean,
that's a disgrace.
Serious. Royal life isn't just about tiaras and tabloid covers. It's about diplomacy, duty, and deference. It's a system built on nuanced protocol and deep-rooted cultural history. Meghan entered this world like it was a Hollywood set, assuming she could rewrite the script, center herself in every scene, and edit out anything that didn't fit her narrative. You know, royals are trained to master understatement. Look at the Princess of Wales, Catherine. Meghan has always preferred oversharing. You know, and then there's etiquette, or in her case, the lack of etiquette. She approached royal traditions like they were beneath her, when in fact, those traditions are the job. And I just want to stress, for the record, being an American isn't the issue, because Grace Kelly married into royalty and became a symbol of poise.
Absolutely.
Meghan had the opportunity to be a modern princess with real influence. Instead, you know, she's used it to prop up her own personal brand.
I couldn't agree more. And just to finish, because God, it's so good to speak to you, and I can't wait to see you next week. I've asked you this every time we speak for a reason. Where does this all end in your mind, Kins?
Oh my gosh, where does this? I mean, I think that they're going to do another reality show. I think that they are going to have to break down and continue to spill, because I don't think that any of their commercial ventures are working. But this is not the way. This is not the path. I think she's being completely destructive to her own brand.
I think they split within 12 months. They are. I say he comes back to the United Kingdom, as I've said on numerous occasions, with his ginger tail between his legs. I think she won't ever be able to come back to the United Kingdom. But listen, it's just fascinating. I mean, you have to watch the video just if you want to be sick. If you're feeling like you need to throw your dinner up, go and watch the video online.
Now, Rupert, what's this about Prince Harry trying to change his surname?
Well, I've just read a report saying that how true it is, I don't know. But, you know, obviously the split from the family. He allegedly has spoken to the Earl of Spencer, his mother's brother, about changing his surname from Mountbatten-Windsor to Spencer. Now, this was some time ago. I think the idea was poo-pooed. But again, you know, that sort of the great, his sort of Diana, presence of Diana looms large, and obviously there are always allegations that Meghan is trying to sort of mimic Diana with her approach to life, and maybe becoming a Spencer. But I think that was actually said not to be a good idea. But it does just show that it further sort of reflects the rift that the family have been in, and Harry sees himself as a complete outsider now, and even to the extent of possibly considering changing his name. Now, whether it got any more than just a conversation round a dinner table, I'm not sure. But the fact is, it sort of really reflects that there is a huge chasm between the royal family that is in this country and his, the court of Montecito, and the way they're going about their business.
Now, you'll be thrilled to know that Meghan, who is our favourite person, has shared a never-before-seen clip from her Netflix show, Rupert. She's gearing up for a second season. I can't wait. With Love, Meghan was released in March, picked up for a second series. I have no idea why. Anyway, she shared a short clip that didn't make it in from the first 8:33-minute episodes. She is sharing lifestyle tips. Now, Rupert, she's been joined by a wellness therapist called Randy Karin. She's explained this incredibly complex phenomenon of how to properly cut a pineapple. Let's have a look.
Trick that people do with pineapple, instead of just cutting it to make the perfect little bite, you follow the wedge. When nature has given you all the cues on how to have a perfect taste of something.
Oh, how fun is that? I love it. It's easy. Mm-hmm. All right, is it gonna work? Am I a good cook? It's great.
Just kill me now, Rupert.
I'm sorry. That, I mean, yeah. Okay. Right. I've had to watch the first series. Now the second one, by all accounts, the third one's going to be commissioned.
Yes, but now you know how to cut a pineapple.
Oh, well, I'm so much better with that. Well, I also know how to cover everything with flour sprinkles. I also know how to take some pretzels and put them in a plastic bag and then write a nice note on them.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is now, as a result of this cooking program, there was supposed to be this As Ever brand. But that's now seems to have died a death because what's happened is there is no stock. And then we suddenly get news from her last edition of a podcast, although I believe there may be an extra one coming out.
Please no.
But, well, and I listened to the last one. She's saying, I'm rethinking my project and what I'm selling. Now, these, that included honey and jam. It was sold out with instant, but it's never come back. We've never really known what's gone on there.
Well, we don't know how many she actually sold, do we?
Well, no, but, you know, you probably can sell 10, but if you only had 10, well, you're sold out, aren't you? Now, I'm sure that was... But actually, that hasn't worked. Now, I listened to the podcast.
Yes.
Now, you're going to like this. I'm going to set you up here.
Come on.
Because it starts... Now, she's interviewing a very interesting lady who started the Spanx empire, which is hugely successful, which is an underwear that it transformed ladies' lives.
Right.
And she's also come up with a stiletto that you can wear. Well, Meghan is interviewing, and it starts, they're clearly on a Zoom call, and Meghan, and suddenly this lady turns round to Meghan and says, oh, you look like an angel, because she's got a shaft of light on her. And I think, what's this about? I'm being interviewed by an angel, she says. Now, as if that's not, and I was, at this particular moment, I was listening to it while planting my courgettes in my garden.
Well, go on.
I basically, as you do, and I'm thinking, and it's not a euphemism.
No,
and,
I wondered. I did wonder.
So, and I'm thinking, what's this about? Because it, again, is sort of blowing sort of smoke and sort of making her feel wonderful. And you think, oh, this is tedious. There were some interesting bits in the podcast. I'm not going to say, particularly with the way this lady, about her business approach.
Oh, I see, yes.
But when ultimately Meghan then just turns it round to her in this interview, and again, that's what annoys me, is that I want to hear everything about this very successful lady, and you think, why do we have to hear about her being deemed an angel? And Meghan has had to now rethink her business strategy as a result of As Ever not really working. And she says, I'm evolving all the time. Well, what you've got a sense from this particular lady is that you have to work really hard, you have to graft, and it's never easy. She talked about developing these stilettos, taking 4 years and permanent rejection. And that's the kind of graft that any successful business person has to put in, because there will be setbacks and knockbacks. Meghan, it seems, just wants things to land on her feet and be uber successful. But there was one other telling bit from it, which was that it talks about family, how this lady's father, brother, all helped. Meghan has nobody, if you think about it, apart from her husband. And and Meghan didn't really have the opportunity to say, oh, I really value my family support, because we know she hasn't got any family supporting her apart from her mother in the United States. And over here, well, obviously, there's not much going on in Harry's land with support. So it almost highlighted her isolated sort of family setup now. But as you say, you can watch another series of a cooking program, which obviously will get other insightful bits, and we may even get a third. So, but I hope that pineapple was absolutely delicious. But with my pineapple, I won't be doing that. It seems to be a lot of fuss and bother.
So I've got this here, this pineapple, and let's play the reason for it. It turns out that with Love Meghan, that toweringly tedious, useless TV series on Netflix, telling us how to make things like ice cubes, giving us recipes for ice cubes, and how to sprinkle dry flowers onto canapes and God knows what. Right, so we thought some of these instructions are really, really condescending. We don't need instructions on this. Well, those were the better ones. At least one of the instructions that she came up with, one of her handy hacks, her handy hints, was so condescending that even with Love Meghan left it on the cutting room floor. Here is Meghan showing you how to eat pineapples.
Trick that people do with pineapple, instead of just cutting it to make the perfect little bite, you follow the wedge. When nature has given you all the cues on how to have a perfect taste of something.
Oh, how fun is that? I love it. It's easy. All right, is it gonna work? Am I good? It's great.
Right, that was incredible, wasn't it? So yes, how to eat pineapples. So because you've got the nature has given you these little squares or hexagon, well, that's a hexagon, isn't it? That you can, it's easy. So I'm going to do it now, Kins. Right, one, there you go. There you go. There you go. Do you think I'm following the instructions okay? It's pretty complicated. Here we go. There it is. Look.
Oh my gosh, it's, you know, it's like someone should tell Meghan Markle, maybe it's Brooke Shields, that if it was cut out of the show, it's probably for a reason.
There it is. I'm going to do one more because Farisa went out and bought this, so there's the least we can do. Right, you're watching this. Right, so I'm going in on the hexagon, in there like that. This is the most exciting thing I've done on this show since we ate her jam, her non-jam. So here it comes. Look at this. Nature has provided us with this handy hint. There you go.
Thanks, Meghan Markle. I mean,
yeah, thanks, Meghan.
You'll live to see another day.
Incredible, incredible. What a handy hint. Thank you very much, Meghan. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
The jokes are that she just watches these. I think I said this originally, and one of the guests, one of the guests I was up against was like yelling at me about it. I can't remember, Afia Hagen or something.
Oh, yeah, Afia, yeah.
Chill out, Afia. Yeah. She was, you know, Meghan watches TikToks where you watch something accomplished in 15 seconds and then tries to stretch it out for a 45-minute episode. And this is just not the way our brains are functioning anymore today. That did not need to be an entire segment. That could have been just something cute that she created to quickly to tease this show. But the fact that she just, you know, in the article that came out today about the Brooke Shields podcast interview, where Brooke Shields said, I interrupted Meghan at South by Southwest, and I thought she's being too serious. She's too precious. She's too serious. She was talking about how Katie Couric asked Meghan something, and Meghan went into the story for the 560,000th time about the dish soap, the damn dish soap, about how when she was 11, she wrote the dish soap company. And Brooke Shields said, I interrupted her, and I said, well, that was cute. When I was 11, I was playing a prostitute, because she said the audience didn't listen to Meghan telling that story. She was like, you know, Meghan's so precious, but too serious. And the audience didn't want to sit there and listen to that. These stories are totally similar to me. Meghan is not box office. She doesn't get entertainment. She doesn't know what people want. She's not entertaining whatsoever. I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm just saying she's, at the end of the day, she's a snore.
Yeah.
The King and Queen obviously visiting Canada. Was it deemed a success in the end?
I think you probably have to say it was, because it wasn't an easy one to navigate. it was a political minefield, potentially. But actually, bearing in mind, he was reading out the script of Mark Carney, and he referred to it as the government, not my government, which would be which is a sort of small difference from what would happen in this country, where, of course, when at state opening in Parliament, he refers to it as my government. So that was actually giving him a little bit of distance from the sort of, obviously, the fallout between Canada and the United States at the moment as a result of President Trump's willingness to say that they should be the 51st state. But obviously, I think the Canadians were very grateful. It was a whistle-stop tour, bearing in mind he's still in his recovery phase, which is progressing well, we're hearing, from his undisclosed cancer. And so I think we have to say it was a positive, and the Canadians certainly lapped it up. It may have been for less than 48 hours, but I think the optics of it were a very successful one for the King, and indeed for and Canada would have appreciated it very definitely.
And do you think so? How do you think the political message was received by the United States, by Trump? We've spoken a great deal about the fact that Trump is a huge monarchist, a big royalist. He likes the royal family, loves the royal family actually, and the King siding with Canada, and rightly so, because it's a very important member of the Commonwealth. Do you think Trump got the message?
Let's be honest, you're never quite sure what Trump's thinking next. So we're not sure. I mean, let's be honest, I think he seems to have had other things on his mind, you know, whether it be steel tariffs and proclaiming about other things and all the foreign student issues and everything. So I think it may be down on his agenda, because it's sort of, you know, what's his focus for that particular day? You never know. But so I would say the fact we've heard nothing probably means that we can say that it must have been positive, because the King did not put his foot in the mouth as far as the relationships with the United States, and we know that that's a sensitive one at the moment. There's so much going on behind the scenes. The King has this difficulty of navigating and trying to be politically neutral. And I think from that point of view, the fact that Trump said nothing may be a positive for all sides.
Yes. Let's talk about Prince William. He takes his duty very seriously. He says he wants to use the Duchy of Cornwall to make people's lives better. He set out his vision to transform the 700-year-old Duchy of Cornwall into a force for social change.
Yes, well, he took over the Duchy of Cornwall on the death of the Queen, because his father was the long-standing Duke of Cornwall. I think there have been, 28 of them since it first started back in the 14th century. And it is a historical... he owned, something like 29,000 acres of land, owned such things...
No, it's 128,000 acres.
Oh, sorry, 128,000. I can't read my notes. I haven't put my glasses on. I should do what you do, David, and do
well,
that.
Well, it's my age, Rupert.
Yeah, well, definitely in my case. I've written it down in front of me. I'll tell you how many exactly. 128,494 acres.
Correct. You get a gold star.
And go to the top of the class.
Yes.
Anyway, but they own such things as the Kennington Oval, you know, the Test match venue.
Do they?
Then they own the Isle of Scilly. Yes, so it's very... You know, there's a wide range, and it generates significant sums of money. Yes, it's designed to make, I think, a profit last year of, say, 26 million, of which that is part to fund the royal household. He does pay some income tax on it, but we don't actually know how much. It's kept secret, that. But sort of the force for change, that sounds, you know, it's one of those sort of yes, he's got the heart completely in the right place. But every politician's, you know, saying we're a force for change and a force for good. Yes, I think he's got some very interesting plans. He's very aware of trying to make sure people feel valued within the Duchy of Cornwall, or on the estate and the farmers. And he's very proactive, you know, in a sort of under the radar kind of way. He does make an effort of going regularly. Now, his father was the same, that would just basically, this is my job, get on with it, no fuss and bother, turn up at meetings and be actively involved. And I think it's very important that he does, because it is his job. You know, he can't just expect all the 120 odd other staff, full-time staff, or whatever it is, to just go on if he's not actually taking an active interest. And actually, you get the vibe that he is. You know, You know, they're sort of less formal. They don't all have to wear ties anymore, but they're getting on with it. Someone did say when they went to a recent visit, well, anything I can do to improve. And this, a guy said, well, you could give me rent free, my lodging. But he said, well, I think by all accounts, Prince William is supposed to have said, well, yes, a lot of people have suggested that, but my bean counters wouldn't be quite so pleased.
Very good.
But I think what he's trying to do, it's like in the Isle of Sicily, trying to Scilly Isles, trying to make sure that there is a valued community by setting up sort of essential staff places for people to live and want to stay, and make it feel viable, making the tourism seem viable. And obviously that was a message that Harry was trying to create when he took his flight to China to talk to a travel conference. So there's, again, lots of similarities with what they're trying to do, the brothers. But I think in William's case, this is something that he's passionate about, and he must make sure that he gets the public opinion with him, because everyone will say, well, he's just a rich landowner. Is he doing anything? And I think he's very mindful of that. And that's the sense that he wants to be seen to carry on his father's good work, but actually to move it in the direction that he would like to take it, which is to make sure with his homelessness project that's something that he can use the Duchy of Cornwall to help, which he is doing down in Cornwall. So I think overall we'd have to say it's a positive initiative, but there are PR minefields along the way, which he has to be very aware of to navigate, because every year the profit comes out and people say, well, why isn't he paying more income tax? The rest of us are. Those are the kind of issues that have to be navigated.
I mean, it's so interesting. There are so many sort of idiosyncratic parts to that duchy. So the Isles of Scilly, very good example, which I've visited many times, to Tresco, for example, where the people who then look after Tresco, they're all given accommodation on the island, and it's very much this family-orientated atmosphere. I've actually run a marathon on Tresco. It's a wonderful part of the world. You need to go, Rupert.
No, I don't need to go. I need to just cough.
Okay, fine. Do you know, you're always unwell when I speak to you? Is it
I was just talking about on Sunday mornings, you know, big weekend. No, but I've never beaten to Tresco, but you've run a marathon run.
I have, but I don't want to brag about these things, Rupert.
I mean, you know, you could say, and now for something far less important. But seriously, it's been
but it's equally disturbing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's been an extraordinary week for Meghan, even by her normal standards, culminating in this video. We're going to play it now and we'll talk it through. So this was Meghan and Harry, allegedly 4 years ago. There she is, pregnant with Lilibet, you know, twerking in a really weird way. You got Harry will come in a minute. There he goes. I think one of the most telling moments, Kinsey, was just before this. You could see them preparing, you know, getting in their positions, ready to make this film. Now, this is apparently 4 years ago. They posted it, or she posted it yesterday on Instagram to mark Lilibet's 4th birthday. This came after a photo she posted on Instagram of her and Lilibet in black and white, so you couldn't see Lilibet's ginger hair. But this was like, you could see daringly almost a third of her face and both eyes. So wow, that's a big development. So and then interviews, the last unexpected episode of Confessions of a Female Founder with Beyonce's mum, Tina Knowles. In other words, a blizzard of publicity activity. Let's all talk about Meghan. Why do you think she's doing all of this right now?
I think that she is just desperate for any relevance whatsoever. I mean, honestly, I'm exhausted. That video, you know, I forgot that Prince Harry mentions this dance in Spare.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's one sentence he writes in Spare about how the day Lily, or you know, as they're getting ready for Lily to be born, they stuff their faces, they do a dance. You know, he doesn't go into the fact that they recorded it. I've seen some argue online that this is just Meghan being so socially savvy. This is just proof of how socially savvy she is. This is a trending, like this was a trend that was happening 3 or 4 years ago on TikTok. To drop it 4 years later, I would not necessarily consider that I think you're like most things Meghan does, a day late and a dollar short, you know. Also,
I like that.
they're recording this. They are doing a lot of mass recording themselves for Netflix. Harry's Freedom Flight video that's featured in the Netflix series. Doria following them around with cameras. Doria capturing them intimately watching the Oprah Winfrey interview together. So I don't think that this is necessarily a cute video that mom and dad save for later. I think that ultimately this is something that they tried to capture for the Netflix docuseries, because think about how desperate they were throughout that process to make people like them, to get their side of the story out. I do think that this is something that they would orchestrate so that people would be like, oh, stars just like us, like, you know, gyrating in their hotel room. But there's just such a lack of decorum here. It's such a, if everyone I talk to, all of the royal commentators and royal reporters that I've worked with throughout the years couldn't believe that it was real. They thought when I shared it, I was sharing an AI video.
That's my first thought, because you send it to me, and I thought, is that them? That can't be them, and it is them. And here's my take on this, on this blizzard of Meghan that has been inflicted on us this week. Right, let's get this straight. So suddenly she does this final unexpected episode of Confessions of a Female Founder. That series, podcast series, has been a disaster, a real flop. In this, she talks about once again closing down as ever, thinking about bringing it back in another form. She's already given an interview saying, well, you know, I'm going to pause as ever to try to work out what it could be, as you and I noted earlier this week. Well, normally before you launch a business, you've already figured out what it might be, what it could be. So classic Meghan all over the place. All of this. So that proves the as ever isn't working. You know, it really isn't. The podcast series is over and very unlikely to come back. Then you've got as ever, or rather the Netflix series with Love Meghan, which will come back for a second series in September because they already filmed it. Now, even if, as we read, Netflix may bring back a third series, it'll be so what, who cares? That series basically has kind of failed. So my point is, she's got nothing really going on. She's got no particular form of income as far as we can see. So I think what she's doing here, Kinsey, is the classic resort of the desperate resort of the C-list celebrity. Just put yourself out there, make a hell of a lot of noise, make yourself talked about, get in the papers, get on the TV, you know, just create publicity about yourself so that somehow someone might say, hey, that Meghan, let's employ her for this job that we want. Let's get her to do this TV show. I think what we've seen over the past frenetic week of manic Meghan publicity is essentially a job application. Is there any work out there for me? Because I desperately need it, because it turns out that my husband's not a billionaire, he's barely a millionaire.
And you know what? Clearly I'm willing to do anything, because I'm a podcaster, I'm a calligrapher, I'm a mom, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a children's book author, you know what, she's also likely, because I am, she's likely paid her Instagram post. You know, so she might, what might be motivating her, aside from all of these headlines, is Meta paying her.
Yeah, she must be, actually, she must make a fortune out of those, because she, you know, people are interested and intrigued by her. There's no doubt about that. But do you agree with me that what she's trying to do is just sort of be in everyone's face so that something might crop up? This is essentially what we're seeing. Here's me with my baby. Here's us twerking. Here's my last podcast. Here's another interview. Here's another photo. It's a kind of give me a job application.
I do agree, but I also think this is actually who Meghan Markle is.
Yeah.
Because for years, well, first of all, this is the same girl that was auditioning for Shakira music videos. This is the same girl that's in the pilot episode of the Beverly Hills 90210 episode, popping her head up because her head was just in a man's lap. I mean, she does not have very high standards when it comes to securing any sort of work whatsoever. I think that she complained for almost 4 years about how she lost her voice, comparing herself to Ariel, the Little Mermaid, saying, oh, I'm so glad to have a voice now. I'm so glad to have a voice now. I think that she wants to put herself out there and has wanted to put herself out there as relentlessly as we've seen her in 2026 for the last 5 years. I don't know why it took her 5 years, but I think this constant verbal and, video and picture vomit fest that we're seeing is who she truly is and has wanted to be since she became the star that the royal family made her. But because before this, she was going to auditions, getting rejected.
C-list, she was serious C-list. So what you're saying, Kinsey, is she's kind of addicted to being famous. She's desperate to be famous. So this ongoing whirlwind of activity, we can expect it to continue because she just wants to do stunts and stuff and pictures and films that will get her talked about, will get her in the papers. She just wants to be famous.
Right, because we haven't mentioned this like inconsistency. I mean, I have made note this week that the only thing she is consistent about is hijacking royal milestones. For instance, next weekend, the King's birthday parade, Trooping the Color. The entire world will be watching. What is Meghan doing? Accepting another participation trophy from some gala in Los Angeles. That is one place where she is consistent. But everywhere else, there is a complete lack of consistency. We talked about the Fast Company profile where they say Meghan Markle needs time to evaluate what as ever is. She tells Tina Knowles in the last podcast drop, I just want to hit pause and figure out what's next. I don't want to just restock and immediately sell out, similar to what she told Fast Company a few days before that when we saw the Fast Company profile. And then this week she announces, surprise, I'm restocking.
Yeah, she suddenly put it on Instagram that all the stuff, the scam jam and the cookie dough and the edible flowers, the honey, the tea, they're on. She suddenly posts, here they are, they're all available.
It's a complete contradiction to what she's been saying in the media. Now she's like, surprise, it is available. And, that, again, is she just looking for attention? Is she just looking for us to sit back and go, what? You're taking a break until 2026?
And now you're not? I mean, look, you know this, Kinsey, the golden rule of business is don't confuse your customers. Customers hate to be confused. They want the proposition from the people trying to sell them stuff to be simple. And she is delivering a whole world of confusion, isn't she? And that's not good.
A whole world of confusion and like pelvic thrusts.
Yeah.
Like I could do without the thrusting. Like that, I'll never unsee that video, that labor video. And when it comes to that video, do it. Do it. Watch it. Laugh about it later in bed. But when you share it, you're cheapening the monarchy. You're ruining your own the very little mystique that you had left around you being a member of the monarchy. You're incubating a kid named Lilibet that you've hijacked this name from Queen Elizabeth. The least you can do is respect this woman, respect her institution, respect her name. I would be so angry if I was Queen Elizabeth and my name was somehow attached to her humping around video. I would not be thrilled.
Around. By the way, Kinsey, if you go to my timeline at TV Kev on X or Twitter, you can see my version of Harry and Meghan twerking. It's there. you have been warned. But a lot of columnists and royal watchers over here and commentators, first of all, they're very confused. They're saying this is just, even by Meghan and Harry's standards, this is really tacky. What on earth is going on? Well, I think you and I have gone some way to explaining why this is happening. I think A, as you say, she's addicted to fame. B, it's a kind of a sales technique. You know, here I am, keep her name in lights, then maybe people will buy her products. But the question to ask is, in what way does Meghan see this blizzard of publicity that she's putting out about herself and Harry? In what way does she see this as maintaining the privacy that she seems to think is so important? It's like, you know, if you and I start invading their privacy, if the media invade their privacy, that's, you know, that's a disgrace. That's a disgrace. Harry might fire off another one of his fatuous lawsuits. If they invade their own privacy, which they do with monotonous regularities we're seeing here, that's charming, that's fun, and also that's monetizable. That's, you know, their privacy saga is just hypocrisy. It's like, we want our privacy, no, we're invading our own privacy now. You can't invade our privacy. It's total hypocrisy, isn't it?
Well, again, I sometimes I know I give these two too much credit, but that story broke about how much money Prince Harry's little revenge pursuit for his security was released. And all of a sudden, Meghan literally drops a video of her twerking, and she knew that, you know, that's going to be the story that's everybody's talking about. Now we're talking less about the amount of money that Prince Harry could potentially be costing taxpayers. So, I mean, I know I'm probably giving them too much credit, wondering if that was the objective in dropping such a salacious video. But no, I don't. I think that they have just become a parody of themselves.
Yes.
That show, this looks like something that would happen in that show, The Windsors, which is a silly show about the royal family.
The spoof, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And what about him? Finally, Kinsey, been great talking to you, by the way, for this extended special Kinsey Schofield documentary on a variety of subjects. What about Harry? What is going on with him? Anything at all?
What's going on with him? Well, we did hear that he is about to launch a commercial venture.
Oh, yeah.
Which completely contradicts the stories that were circulating earlier, that he was going to go full headfirst into philanthropy because he felt like that was going to be his way back into the royal family. If they saw him going, you know, full force into the philanthropy world, maybe they would soften to the idea of him coming back around. Well, not if he's got a tequila brand that he's trying to hawk, or a whiskey or something like that. I think that Meghan is fine. We've always thought of her as the deal or no deal girl, okay? Like, she was blink and you'll miss her being a working royal. But if Prince Harry tries to monetize his relationship with the royal family, we will not forgive him. He will stand out. It will stand out like a sore thumb. We know Meghan is a Kardashian. We've accepted that fact. But we do have higher expectations for Harry, and I do worry about whatever this commercial venture is, because I don't think that people will be willing to accept him trying to sell his family's name.
I agree with you, but I think he has to do it. As I said to you before, I think the story going forward with these two will be financial. It'll be a financial crisis, because, as we always say, there's no doubt about it, these two are living a billionaire's lifestyle, but they haven't got billionaires' money. At best, they've got millionaires' money, and I think that's
maybe Meghan can take up dancing, if you know what I mean. I wasn't so not impressed with those moves. They were pretty good.
Yeah, professional twerker, the two of them, a couple of twerks.
Harry and Meghan, their latest Let's Have Our Privacy exhibit, Exhibit A, would appear to be a rather interesting video, which I'm going to show you now. This is Harry and Meghan dancing in a maternity ward in a hospital. I'm not quite sure which baby this is supposed to be.
Baby mama, this shot's off, been pregnant for way too long. I tell the DJ turn it off.
If she your baby mama, she gon' do that baby mama. She gon' put it on you. She gon' do that baby mama. Drop it down, drop it down, down low. Drop it down, drop it down, down low. Drop it down, drop it down, down low. Do the baby mama when I step out on the top. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, oh. Hit the baby mama when I'm stepping through the door. Yeah, I'm pregnant, but I got an ill flow. Tryna make some money, buy some huggies from the store. S to the T-A, double R-K, to the E-I-S-H-A. And I don't play, doing my way. Prego, but I'm still
It's all
doing
very
moves
weird.
like Beyonce. Yeah, I said I'm
Meghan's sort
pregnant,
of twerking.
pregnant, get the
Prince Harry's kind of dad dancing, not quite sure what he's doing, but the Sussexes invade their own privacy again, says the Sun. Very strange piece of video. Let's have a look at Rupert Bell and what he wants to say about it. Rupert, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
This is even for them, this is a very bizarre video, isn't it?
It's weird, basically. It's to celebrate Lilibet's 4th birthday, because that was supposedly recorded while she was in labour, waiting for the birth of Lilibet.
Okay, so this is 4 years old then?
4 years old, because Lilibet has turned 4. But it just seems to me the weirdest thing to put out. I mean, if they're looking at that and think this is clever,
yeah.
I mean, are they stupid or what?
Well, I think they are.
Think, because it just looks like it's in such poor taste, and yet she thinks that she's a princess and has the right almost to be HRH, although officially not, shouldn't use the title, but has been quietly using it in places. I mean, it's downright awful and weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, look, we probably all got stories of when our children were born that the mothers would probably try and do something. In my case, my wife decided she needed a spicy Indian, and that seemed to work, and out popped Miles. So, there are many ways that people try to encourage, but the last thing I do is be filming my wife eating the Indian. And, it just weird to do this. And if they think they want to have, I don't know what they're trying to prove by this. And then they put out pictures of Lilibet, but it doesn't. You see her half covered.
Right.
But all you see is Meghan. So it's all about Meghan again.
It always is all about Meghan.
Well, this is the problem, and this is why I think people get exasperated. And as you mentioned, where's this beloved privacy that they talk about?
Yeah.
That they don't want attention. This is just so attention-seeking.
It is.
It is mind-numbing that they could even think that. But maybe, I don't know what they're trying to prove or what mindset they're in at the moment, but it seems to be a pretty strange one to most normal thinking.
I mean, I'm assuming she and he think this is showing that they're down with the kids, despite the fact that they're massive celebrities and they're incredibly important people. But look at this, just messing about, listening to a rap song by Little Missy or somebody, I don't know who it's by. But there's something a bit odd about the look of her as well. And Isabel Oakeshott said this: there's something really odd about Meghan's bump. Baby bumps are round and extremely smooth, not all bulky and baggy like that. She says, very curious. It is a bit curious, isn't it? I mean, I know different women have different shaped bumps, and they can, sometimes be wider or thinner or higher or lower, but it just looks a bit strange, doesn't it?
I'm not really in a position to comment, because having not been pregnant, I don't really know. But what she did say recently in a podcast of her, that she put on 65 pounds in each of her pregnancies.
Right.
Well,
that's quite a lot, isn't it?
Well, that is a substantial amount of weight, but that doesn't, clearly she put weight on, but whether that's 65 pounds, I know not. But it's all part of this does look a bit of a freak show. That's what sort of voyeurism gone wrong, basically.
Yeah.
From the thinking that people are going to look at this and go, wow. And Harry just looks sort of slightly strange in the background. Anyway,
he's probably stoned, isn't he?
Well, a whole thing just they keep on doing things that you just go, have you not read the room?
Yeah.
That seems to be the problem. And you don't want to just always be having a pop at them and saying, why now, why now? But they do just seem to put their foot in their mouth on regular moments. And, at the moment we're seeing a bit of Archie and Lilibet, but we never see them. Whereas if you look at the Waleses, when they put out a birthday photograph, they tend to put out a birthday photograph of Charlotte, George or Louis and say, that's it, and make it about them. But instead, what we have is Meghan making it about her. This is all about her.
Right.
It's not about Lilibet. And this is where you just you start wanting to pull your hair out.
I know.
In frustration.
It is very weird because everything that they're now doing seems to be, misfiring. We found out just the other day that it looks like about 700,000 quid is the damage done to the Exchequer for Harry's attempts at trying to get his royal security case fought through. It may well be that he ends up picking up the tab, but at the moment it's the taxpayer that's footing the bill for the defence of that particular story by the Home Office, and meanwhile her podcast goes from bad to worse. She now has decided to disband her jam empire. Nobody's quite sure why. She might start to up again, she might not. She's worried that people might be annoyed because they can't buy the stuff. I mean, it's all just weird.
It's incompetent, basically, because if you're going to launch a business, and her podcast was interviewing people who had run successful businesses. Well, the work some of them put into it, it was real hard graft. It just proves to me that she expects things to just, with a flick of a finger, she will produce a highly successful business. And then she talks about all the heartaches and sleepless nights. You just don't feel that it resonates. And this is just another sort of part of the weird world of Meghan and Harry, and that we are trying to understand and comprehend. I mean, she seems to readily accept awards left, right and centre. I think she's even supposedly going to be accepting another award next week.
Oh, yeah.
On the day of the King's birthday parade for her work in philanthropy, I believe. So there's all sorts of... being philanthropic. I can't say it anymore,
Where?
Mike.
What philanthropy has she been doing?
Well, therein lies one of the problems, but it's an award ceremony in Los Angeles. But it may be, so they do seem to love an award to add for their credibility. So the whole thing, if you're going to put out something to celebrate your daughter's birthday, please don't put something out as tacky as that. And I'm afraid there's no other words. It's just downright tacky. Maybe wrong. Maybe some people do like it, but to me, maybe I'm not the generation it's supposed to appeal to. But I think most right-thinking people just think it's the most appallingly bad taste and not befitting of the status of someone who thinks that she should have been an integral member of the royal family.
No, exactly right. Imagine if they still were. That would be an absolute nightmare.
It has been quiet on the William and Catherine front. But a really interesting piece from the Telegraph. I met with a royal author over the week, and one of the first things she said to me was, "Did you see the Prince William Telegraph piece?" And I was like, "Yes." But I also have seen some criticism on it. Why don't you fill me in first with some of your favorite parts of our highlights from the Telegraph piece, or anything that stood out to you, and then let's debate some of the criticism around it, if you don't mind.
Well, this is an interesting one because obviously the Duchy of Cornwall is what we're referring to. Now, it's something that he took over when his father became king, because prior to that, he had been in charge of Duchy of Cornwall. It seems to be something that was started back in the 14th century, 1337 to be precise, and it has basically evolved as a means for the future king heir to sort of generate income. Now, it's a huge empire of length and breadth of the country with some fairly quirky things that come under the Duchy of Cornwall umbrella. And like the Scilly Isles, just off the west coast of England, beautiful location, a test match cricket ground, which for those who watch in America, it's a cricket ground in London called the Kennington Oval. And he's a landlord of parts in rural and urban Britain, stretching over 20 counties. I think he comes under something like 128,494 acres he owns, and it generates a profit last year of over 26 million. Now, the article that you referred to is him a day on the farm, basically going out and about and meeting the people who work for the Duchy of Cornwall. It covers a wide range of businesses, farms, you name it. And it obviously, we're getting a sense, and from that article, that it's something that the Prince of Wales is desperate to see moving forward, and carry on the good work his father did, but then give it his personal touch, and wanting to make sure that it is fit for purpose and avoids some of the headlines that it attracts. Now, the areas that it can get controversial is when he inherited it, he didn't pay any inheritance tax. Now, that is a bit of a hot potato here at the moment. Also, it's not disclosed how much income tax he pays, but the idea of the Duchy of Cornwall is to pay for his royal household and indeed to make sure it is a viable concern. But you can see where the areas of controversy could develop.
So one of the comments I saw online was around Prince William's private visits to the duchy once every 4 to 6 weeks. It says that he works his way through the farms and offices to meet families and staff, shake hands, and quiz them on what he can do to help. His visits are usually private, it says, rarely making the court circular, and kept quiet by loyal locals who are used to royals coming and going. Now, the criticism I saw was he's only there every 4 to 6 weeks, basically discouraging him or being discouraging about him, saying he should invest more time in it. When is this guy supposed to do all of the other things we actually hear about? These are secret visits. These are under the radar. And he has had a very busy schedule, surprisingly busy schedule, in my opinion, since 2024.
I think, look, it's a huge organization. I think when it means of visits, but I do think he does spend a lot of time in the office and outside the visits, being sort of a degree of hands-on to his position as the Duchy of Cornwall. Look, he's relatively new to the position, so presumably he's learning all the time about some of the more quirky businesses that come under the Duchy of Cornwall's situation. So it is a complicated one, and that's why I think arranging visits is not easy in the royal family. But I think it's important that he must be seen to be hands-on. And it clearly, from this article, you got the sense that when he does turn up, people are more than happy to see him. Although someone did say, anything I can do to improve? To which someone said, well, you can let me live rent-free. To which he sort of probably went, oh, I'm not sure the bean counters within the Duchy of Cornwall will be too pleased with that. But you can see that there are areas with the kind of money that it's generating. But there are some interesting things that he is developing, particularly around trying to help the rural poor within Cornwall and places. And it is a problem in this country. People think it's only in an urban environment. But, I live in a rural community. Yes, it may be all picture postcard, but it can be pretty tough for a lot of people. Housing can be expensive. There's all kinds of issues. And the important thing is with his homelessness project, what drives the Prince of Wales. And it is trying to make sure that whatever he's involved with, and we've talked about it before on this programme, that actually something positive comes out of it. And that was the really overriding sense of this article in the Telegraph, that he's not just a token boss. He wants to be, as much as his situation allows him to be, a hands-on boss that does actually make an impact. And the Duchy of Cornwall can be seen to be a force for good.
Yeah, you're right. I love the line. He wants to use it as another branch of his philanthropy. He tells me existing for social impact versus an old style financial resource to be drawn from. So I don't understand why anyone would be ugly about this. It seems like he saw an opportunity, a unique opportunity, and took it when it comes to that. He had a vision of what this could be and how it could he could change the way that it functions.
Look, it's probably a bit like trying to steer a tanker. It won't be easy. It's a huge, as I mentioned, organization with things dotted the length and breadth of the country. But what I think he has to do, and this is the navigating the sort of political scenario, and people saying, look, why does he own 128,000 acres of land? What's he doing? And there are bits of water that he owns and he gets rent from that. So it's all a bit quirky, but it's been passed down from generation to generations. And there is, every time the financial figures are published, there will be a degree of criticism saying, well, clearly, why is he not paying as much tax as the next person who's made a profit? Because, being a rural community, it's tough to make money, and farmers are struggling to make money here. So there will be a lot of political sensitivities around the Duchy of Cornwall and the money it makes. But as I say, he doesn't draw a grant from the state. His household and everything is run from the income that is derived from the Duchy of Cornwall, which, so it's a historical thing, and obviously helps run his household and all that involves. But obviously 26 million is still a lot of money. But that's why I think he wants to make sure that any money is made is then reinvested to a good effect. And I think that's his primary function.
If JFK Jr. were still alive, he would be in Meghan Markle's crosshairs.
Yeah.
He'd be on his third marriage by now. He would be in her crosshairs. If Jackie were still alive, Jackie would have read this woman from a mile away, just like Queen Elizabeth. These are seasoned, savvy women. Even when Jack was alive and they were in the White House, he would say, and all of his advisors would say, Jackie can read people like nobody else. She could spot a phony, a hustler, a self-aggrandizer, a glommer, if you will. So Meghan tries, and the thing with Meghan is you can always let's turn, as Meghan would, a verb into a noun. Okay. You can always see the try with Meghan.
That is so true. That is so true. Well, what about JFK and Prince Harry? Because he had to find his own path. His mom, he wanted to be an actor. His mom wanted him to be an attorney, but also was quietly telling people she just knew one day he would be president. The Democratic Party wanted him to be president. I think that there were much more expectations with JFK. He builds George because he's trying to find somewhere in the middle. They asked Princess Diana to be the first on the first cover,
That's
which
right.
turns out to be Cindy Crawford. Diana would have been great. I think she understood that it didn't make any sense though. It would have just been a great marketing get for JFK. Do you think that you can compare the two? I want to try, but at the same time, I know that JFK Jr. was lost a little bit, but I feel like Harry's really lost because there are less expectations for him.
Kinsey, this is a fascinating comparison. And I think the key difference is social media, which did not exist in JFK Jr.'s lifetime. And he had a media that was enthralled to him. I mean, he was in New York, the tabloids, they loved this guy. He loved fame and he loved being famous. And he wore it with a kind of casual sort of elan, and it felt very natural to him. He was often talked about as a future president, and God help us had he been, because again, like Harry, there's not a lot going on between those ears. So JFK Jr., was able to keep up until his death. I do think this was a precipitating factor in his untimely death. He knew deep down, he didn't have a lot of substance. He didn't have a lot of intellect. He didn't really have a great sense of humor. He was just this sort of indulged, entitled, overgrown kind of brat. His best friends would be like, that's the deal. You want to hang with him? You got to indulge everything. He never heard the word no. Yeah. And there are a lot of similarities with Harry. The difference being now with social media and these sort of unmediated parasocial relationships we now have with celebrities, we can see a lot more behind the veneer. They had constructed such a well-oiled, professional and personal artifice for him. And he had an identity. He was the roguish younger brother, the cheeky prince who could be a little bit more freewheeling because he didn't have the throne, hanging over his head. He's purely animated, it seems to me, just my opinion, by rage and by jealousy.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's also the fact that, I think if social media would have existed at the time, I wonder if JFK Jr.'s star would have fizzled a little bit, because we've seen that shift in now it's not movie star, TV star, political star. Now it's just influencer. 3 million people might know who this person is, but I don't. I cannot
Right.
recognize that person at Coachella. So I wonder
Right.
if social media would have dimmed that light a little bit. And with Harry and Meghan, I think it's elevated them. But I know that that they're discouraged by the comments that they see their critics say online, because God knows that's their place that they sit and stew. I'm sure that they did not like some of my comments this week about the Daily Mail report that Prince Harry approached Earl Spencer, Princess Diana's brother, at his Althorpe estate when I think it was probably the last time he visited the UK, we suspect, because I do know he went to visit his mother's grave, and said, "What do you think about me taking on the last name Spencer?" Now everybody's like, this is the ultimate swipe at his family. I think it's more than that. I think it's this obsession Harry and Meghan have with being compared to Princess Diana. They see that this is an opportunity for them to monetize her popularity and everybody's love for her, which is just not going to go away.
I'm loath to always blame the woman in these scenarios as sort of the animating factor, but here I think it was Meghan. I think this was her idea. I don't think Harry generates many original ideas. We're dealing with like a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And I think it was her idea because I think was it you who said this? I think in an email to me, it's sort of like then the daughter Lilibet becomes Lilibet Diana Spencer.
Yeah.
And now we're getting into the part of the alien movie where the alien subsumes the host. And Meghan is trying to subsume the dead host that is Princess Diana.
It's so gross. It's so gross. And she says, I never Googled him. I don't know anything about the family. But if you talk to Andrew Morton, he talked to friends of Meghan who said his book, Diana, Her True Story, was on Meghan's bookshelf when she was a little girl.
If you're telling me that wasn't Meghan Markle's Bible and that Meghan Markle, as we have heard, had a vision board, and Harry was allegedly on it. Now, if you go into other corners of like Reddit, there is a lot of theorizing that she really was using Harry as a Trojan horse to get to William, and that she thought that with her beauty, her charm, her American sauciness, her Californian carefree attitude, she would lure William away from Catherine, and she would join him in ruling the British Empire. And you know, those fears were dashed, and now we're making jam in Montecito, allegedly. I mean, you know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, because remember, it's Tom Quinn's story that said she was a little too touchy-feely for William, that he didn't understand why she needed to hug and kiss every time she saw him. And even courtiers were like, there were rumors that the courtiers were like, wow, she's awfully affectionate towards Prince William, and it was ticking Prince Harry off. So I can see that too. And you know, another thing is, of course, Earl Spencer discourages this and says there's too many legal loopholes you're going to have to jump through if you try to do this. But if you read Tom Bower's Revenge, Bower says like the Spencers were not impressed with Meghan whatsoever. Prince Harry introduces Meghan to Diana's sisters and Earl Spencer. Earl Spencer is already discouraging him from marrying her. He thinks it's too soon. And Prince Harry's like, doesn't she remind you of mom? Doesn't she remind you of mom? And they're all like, absolutely not. Not a single thing about this woman reminds us of your mother. And that disappointed him. But they also warn him, we don't think she's going to fit into the British royal family. I mean, hello, red flag. How many were there, Harry? But it's almost like the Spencers don't want to claim her either.
Oh no, nobody wants to claim her. Nobody wants to claim her. And you know, it's interesting the I remember reading that part of Tom Bower's book and being thinking like it must be really bad if the Spencers allowed that biographer, they gave him that piece of information. That's just a taste of what they really talk about behind the scenes, because that's a very, very vicious bit of information to allow to be in the pages of a book and for people to talk about. And it was a very similar thing too with JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette. Now, Jackie had died. You know, again, there are some parallels, and Carolyn reminded a lot of people theorized that part of his attraction to her was she had a Jackie Kennedy-esque quality of being quite aloof and mysterious. And that was something that Carolyn actively cultivated. You know, she knew that the way to get to this guy who could have anybody he wanted was to appear to be the woman that he could not get so easily. And Markle, again, I think we talked about this the last time. Like, remember the Netflix doc, the first one? She's talking about their origin story and how, you know, they were secretly flying back and forth, but all of the notes that she kept, because she kept everything, she kept everything. We're saving it for the divorce memoir and the divorce Netflix special, which, you know, again, Redditors have knocked it into my head. Oh, that's why Netflix keeps renewing her. They're keeping her on the payroll for the inevitable divorce special. That it was her, it was Meghan, who was actually working a job. You know, she wasn't mining coal, but she had a TV show, who was the one always flying to London, M to London, M to London, M to London. Like, and this jobless layabout is sitting there letting her fly back and forth and rack up frequent flyer miles. Again, lazy, lazy, lazy.
Yeah, yeah. But that's not hard to get. I mean, she did threaten to break up with him, but if you're like getting on a plane for 5 to 6 hours, that is you're making it a little easy. I mean, what do I know? I obviously am not with a prince, but
Honestly, Kinsey, I think she was flying from the West Coast, which would have made it like a 10-hour flight.
oh my gosh. So when it comes to the Spencer last name, do you think if Harry had done that, that would have done anything positive for, I feel like we're constantly talking about the rebrand, the rebrand, the rebrand. This would have been yet another rebrand. Would it have done anything positive for these two? Are there some schleps out there that would have fallen for this?
Probably. I mean, she
Oh,
does have her fans,
oh my God.
but it's like Meghan can try on as many names. You know, she went from Meghan Markle to Meghan Sussex, and that belly flopped hard. You know, and she's pulled back on that. Now she's Meghan Markle again, or just Meghan. She's just Meghan. I'm just Meghan. By the way, you and I'm dying to talk to you about this on your show, because the first episode of that podcast, which was a really, really difficult listen, you could see they call them ad reads, which are like the host reading the ad, which pays the podcast more money. You get more money in ad revenue. You could tell these ads were written for Meghan to read aloud. It was like something like Jenny Kane or these brands that she's always making sure she's photographed in, and we know how much money she's spending. And they were written in the first person. They were using the pronoun I. And there was an actress reading them because Meghan Markle, I think, clearly thinks, well, she can do a podcast, but she's not going to do a ad read. She's above an ad read. Okay.
Yeah.
She's a duchess. We're not doing ad reads on our podcast.
I think you're so right. And you know, the way she could have balanced that out was she could have had some true sponsors, but then she could have read them, you know, with her grinding her teeth through it. She could have read them. Although ultimately, she just wants to be an influencer. It's not a tough job just to read about an ad, but then she could have, you know, spaced it out with an ad that she's donated, you know, for a cause that she cares about. So instead of us talking about, oh my gosh, Meghan Markle's doing commercials for whatever, we would also have to acknowledge that she's doing commercials for the Boys and Girls Club, and that's so great, or whatever. And then there's a charitable effort in it somewhere, but there's no charity in this stuff whatsoever, unless you consider giving Tina Knowles a little bit of press for a book I would rather die in a fire than read. Let's talk about this episode with Beyonce's mom. You took one for the team. You're honest. Today, you're the martyr, and we love you for it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not just an astronaut. I'm a martyr. Thank you.
You're not just an astronaut. So is she basically just admitting that she can't secure Beyonce? I truly hated the way, what did she say? I'm so happy to be sitting down with you. So glad you reached out to me. That's just classic Meghan Markle. I am wanted. People want to talk to me. I am important.
It's so funny. So on The Nerve, we also did a segment on what a kind of friend that's called The Underminer. And we talked to this guy, Mike Albo, who's hilarious, and he wrote the book. It's called The Underminer. It's a comic novel. And the subtitle is Or the Best Friend Who Casually Destroys Your Life. And Meghan is nothing if not the ultimate underminer. Like, she's knifing Beyonce's mom, okay? A momager who is like akin to, you know, what she and her husband did to get Destiny's Child and Beyonce launched is like what Serena and Venus's father did to get those two launched into tennis stardom. You know, it was like they were grinding it out from a very young age. But Megan's going to sit there, who on her Instagram post from like a couple of weeks ago was like, thanks to Beyonce and her team for a great night at a show. I'm wearing denim, by the way, in homage to Cowboy Carter,
Oh,
because
thank you.
I knew we were talking about this.
Yeah.
So, you know, she's implying that Beyonce hooked her up with like VIP seats and the like, and there's no evidence. She was not hosted by Beyonce. There are no pictures backstage. There's no, you know, grinning madly from a VIP booth. Nothing. So she's got.
But she does do a shout out to Beyonce's publicist, who I guess is there with Tina. And to me, when she's like, "Oh, hi," to the woman that's there with Tina, I was like, I bet that's who got her the tickets, not Beyonce.
Maybe it was like that. And if that's the best kind of mutual transaction you can get going with Beyonce's team, where you can't get to Beyonce, but you'll get the tickets and you can post about it if you have her mother on your flailing podcast, Confessions of a Female Flounder. Listening to this was very hard because Tina Knowles does not come across as a particularly intelligent woman, you know, and, you know, nor does Meghan, but Meghan at least sort of sounds a little bit more professional, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
she can elocute a little bit, like whatever acting classes she took got her a little bit of polish. But the level of discourse, I mean, you know, we're talking again, we start out with this garbage language is infecting the culture. She says to Tina Knowles, who's, by the way, plugging not just her memoir, but which she brags about, is hit #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. I think Jay-Z bought those copies in bulk. Just saying.
Yeah, Earl Spencer knows something about that. Allegedly. It's like, what you can just buy copies of your own book and then put them in your own little stores or distribute them or do contests or whatever. It's allegedly what some other people do too. Allegedly.
And by the way, when these people go on to hotspot shows such as The View and Whoopi turns and magisterially says, and you're all going home with a copy, those count as book sales. So there's all kinds of way to goose that stuff. But she says to her, she's also promoting a hair care line, and it's called Sacred, but it's spelled in a very weird way. So like when you look at it, there's this huge disconnect. You're like, what is this? It's called like, it's like C and then an E with an accent over the E and then a C and then an R. You would never know what this is. And Meghan says to Tina Knowles early on, like, out of authenticity comes originality. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Like, and then she goes on, the bulk of this really Meghan talking about how great she is and how great as ever is.